City of Stevens Point Board of Park Commissioners meeting, recorded December 1st, 2021.
Okay, I got 6:30.
All right, it's 6:30, and the December 1st meeting of the Board of Park Commissioners will come to order. And Director, would you please read the roll?
Breckman?
Here.
Badusky?
Here.
Paul?
Here.
Kirsch?
Here.
McDowell?
Here.
O'Connor is excused. Shabilsky?
Here.
Alder Short?
Here.
Alder Slawinski?
Here.
Sorensen is not here yet. Alder Zarzua?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Wonderful. All right, item number 2, approval of October 6, 2021 meeting minutes. I'll move to approve.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and approved. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any additions or corrections I should have asked? Okay. Those opposed? All right, they've been approved. Thank you. Item number 3, local food fair special event request at Piffner Park on May 7th, 2022.
So this is a new special event request within the city park system, but is not a new event within the city of Stevens Point. So the Central Rivers Farm Shed and Trevor Drake, who's the applicant who's with us tonight, approached the city asking if there would be a potential or an opportunity to bring an event that used to be at Century outdoors into the park system. This event has the potential to bring a few thousand people if it's good weather and has and the attendance comes like normal. So we looked at the calendar a little bit, and what's proposed is the first weekend in May to allow the ground to firm up, hopefully, if we have a decent April. And the setup would encompass a few different days, so it would start probably as early as the 5th and carry cleanup into the 8th. So there is a fee structure that is incorporated within the rental to block out the band shell and lawn space, as well as use the electric pedestals and the Piffner building for a couple days, because the event would likely use a very similar footprint as what Riverfront Rendezvous does. So city staff has met with Trevor. We feel really confident. Trevor's done a great job talking with the other departments in terms of the clerk's office as well as the PD. So staff is recommending approval of the event and bringing it into the park system for 2022.
Does anybody have any questions for, yes, Alder Zarzua?
So the event itself is just the one day?
Correct. May 7th is the day of the actual event. Vendors would be the day prior. Their setup, getting ready for the vendors would be the day prior to that. And then the Sunday cleanup. So hopefully by Monday we'd be back to clean park space for everyone.
So when the vendors are setting up, they won't need electricity?
So
Because I see it's for one day.
ultimately, we have electricity with the band shell. So the way the package is set up is we've only traditionally charged the vendors when they're using the plugins and operating. So the night when they set up, I'm sure they'll be testing things, but they wouldn't be selling or vending. So
Okay. Just a statement to call Trevor out. Piffner has 3 Fs.
oh no.
Although only 2 are pronounced.
Only 1 is listed in the application.
Spell check would not catch it. Trevor, is this a projected attendance kind of consistent with what you've had previously?
Correct.
Wow, it's quite a turnout.
Yes, it typically it's a 4-hour only event when it was at when it was at Century. So it really did move people through an indoor space quickly. Yeah. Regardless of that, we're still hoping that the attendance stays around the same, barring good weather, and things are a little bit less chaotic with the outside space.
Wayne's got his hand up.
Oh, Wayne, yes.
Well, thanks, Liz. I guess, Trevor, is it possible that moving it outside will actually increase attendance? How does the space compare, I guess? And if being outside on a nice May day brings more people out, will you be able to effectively handle that size crowd?
We are totally open working with the PD on whatever they would recommend to handling that size crowd. I know in the past, volunteer recruitment has never been an issue, and we've actually had too many volunteers. So with those two things, yeah, we're confident we could handle that. And I think the big thing that really came together last minute is the opening of the Piffner building itself, and that parking in general really brings a lot of confidence to my staff and myself on being able to handle the crowd.
Thank you.
All right, are there any other questions for Trevor or for Director Kramer? Okay, if not, do we have a motion?
I move approval.
Okay, great.
Like a second.
A second?
Okay.
Got a few seconds.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, great. Well, thank you, Trevor. It should be a really nice event. Good luck with it.
Real quick.
Thank you. I hope to see you all there.
No, you're fine. So one more.
Good
thing.
luck. I hope you get good weather.
Yeah.
Just so the board knows too, I do want to just let you know, the special event process for the city will be changing as of the first of the year. So it'll be going to a more, rather than the Parks Department getting an application and then the Clerks Department getting something separate, that's merging. The council has reviewed an ordinance that the attorney has drafted. So long story short, my updates will be more likely what has been approved and what's gone through that process, rather than the individual new events that have come here now. So when the final application is done, which will be prior to the first of the year, I'll bring that to the Park Commission so you can see it. But just in case anyone hasn't seen that, that process will change slightly.
What was the reason for changing the process?
So the main change or reason was just that for an applicant, if you were going to be in a park, but you were going to vend alcohol, which happens quite frequent, you'd actually end up at a couple different committees and a couple different city
Okay.
offices. So even Trevor, for example, has had to go to the Parks Department, the Clerk's office, and the PD. This process is going to allow every application that comes to the city to be routed through all the directors, each department, but one central location at the Clerk's office to receipt the actual application and issue the permit. So it should allow some things that have sometimes not been done, say a tent inspection if the fire department wasn't alerted, or say there wasn't a resource officer from the PD because they didn't get alerted. This should basically allow all events to make it to every department in a more quickly and efficient way.
Great, thank you. Item number 4, 2022 fees and charges schedule. Dan?
Okay, so annually, the Parks Commission reviews the fees and charges for the department for what we're charging and what we're using for our different, basically all the programs and facilities that we have. You'll notice I included 2 copies. It can be a busy document when you look at it. So the first one had all of the red lines of some of the changes or verbiage that we added. The second version is more of a black and white copy that has just I'll call it the clean version. You'll notice with some of the new faces and changes in the department, and as well as our new rollout of our software, when I was reviewing this for this year, I noticed that some of the fee increases that have happened in the most recent history were not necessarily being charged correctly. So the attempt, or what I'm showing for 2022, is really to make sure what we're charging is consistent with what the schedule is, and it's not really showing as much increase. With that said, I do want to call attention to an area that last year I had in my notes that we were going to talk about, but we hadn't throughout the year, and that was non-resident fees. So in the fees and charges, what you'll look at is basically an update, some clean language, and showing what we're doing now. You'll also see that we eliminated listing every individual Learn to Skate program. And the reason for it is sometimes the Learn to Skate might be 7 weeks, or it might be 9 weeks, and the fee has to fluctuate slightly depending upon the level. And trying to list out 30 programs, and then if the weeks change, is sort of cumbersome. It makes more sense to list, it varies, and we basically break out what our expense is on the instructors and keep it consistent with what we're charging. With that said, on the non-resident side of the fee structure, I just want to call attention to what we're currently doing and make a suggestion or a recommendation to the board of what we could be doing. Currently, we're charging non-resident rates at the pool. We don't charge a non-resident individual rate, so if you come visit the pool during the day, just walk in and pay your $3. We're not asking, are you a resident or are you not? If you do buy an individual pass or a family pass, then we are asking, and there is an increase in fee. It's $25 for both. On our programs, so like say Learn to Skate, it's $10 per person, per participant, per program for a non-resident fee, and that's listed in the fee and charges as well. And the third area that we're doing it is at our boat slips. It's $100 if it's a non-resident. That seems high, but it's because of the demand. We want residents using that as much as we can, and that's why that's an increased fee. what we've looked at and reviewed, and I think what's been talked about by the board a few times, was like lodge rentals, or if you're doing, say, even walking into the Willet and you're doing ice skate sharpening, any of those things. Should our residents be getting a better deal than our non-residents? And there's a lot of trains of thought on that. One train of thought is that now that we have an actual system, there's a GIS layer in it. We know as soon as someone provides an address, whether they're a resident or a non-resident. So we have the capability. I'd like to propose to the board that we make our non-resident fee for the programs and the daily transactions consistent. So keep the $10 per program per participant. That seems to make sense. But also bring our daily, so if you're coming into, say, a facility, of $1 difference. So if you're a resident, it could be, say, $3 like we're charging now, but it could be $4 if you're a non-resident. Just keeping it $1 difference for those daily transactions. That's just a recommendation. It could change in time, or we don't have to implement that currently. Additionally, rather than a $25 fee at the pool, it would seem to make sense to be consistent as a starting point to keep it at $10. For instance, if someone's gonna, then the price point of, okay, maybe I'm gonna come to the pool 20 times this year, it would only be $20 more if you paid that daily fee versus if you say, oh, it's only $10 more, I can buy the pass. It would be consistent with some of our programs. The last recommendation or food for thought for the board that I'd be looking for direction on is, would you also like to take that fee onto facility reservations? So if you're renting a lodge, or if you're, say, going to do ice time for a few hours, would we want to put, say, a $10 non-resident fee on something like that? We have the capability. We've not necessarily entered that space, but I'd be looking for direction. So ultimately, my recommendation tonight is to make our non-resident fee consistent. So take it to $10 for our programs, sessions, things that we're doing for, say, a season pass, punch pass. Implement the $1 daily, otherwise it doesn't make much sense to have a pass be more if your daily fee's not. And then consider if you'd like staff to implement a non-resident fee for lodge rentals or facility rentals.
Yes, Mike?
I kind of agree with the first part of that. The lodge rental, you got a bunch of people there, well, we'll just find somebody that lives in Point to go make the reservation. So it probably is not gonna make a big difference there. But I do agree in the first part.
David?
Thanks. So on the $1, you described it in relation to a $3 and maybe a $4 fee. I am curious, if there would be fees that are larger where that $1 starts to be a smaller proportion. So what's the largest fee that $1 would be applied to?
So let's really the two facilities that would play the biggest role is the pool. If you come to the pool, it's $3 for entry, so that would be a $4 entry. In addition, if you come to the Willet, it's a $4 entry right now, and then a skate rental is $4 more. So if you compare those apples to apples, if it was a non-resident, it would cost them $10 to rent skates and the entry, and a resident would be $8. That fee would also apply though to things like, say you were going to get skate sharpening. If we were going to make it consistent, then if you were paying $5, for example, as a resident getting your ice skate sharpened, it could be $6 for a non-resident if we wanted to implement it that far.
My intent was to confirm that there aren't any price points of $7, $8, $10 where I might want it to become $2.
Sure.
And if not, that's fine. Thanks.
The biggest ones that are more than that are like our session fees. So if you enroll in a 9-week Learn to Skate, and Ann, correct me if I'm wrong here, I think that can range from in the high 30s, or I'm sorry, in the 50s. So it could be like $52 or $62, stuff like that, when it's those 7-week classes.
Yeah, no, that's right. 9-week class, we have that $10 fee, and that's straight across. Some of the Learn to Skate are different, depending on the length of time they're on the ice. So we do have lessons that go up to $90, and it's still a $10 fee, so.
Excuse me.
I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry.
You have Wayne.
Let's see, Wayne, you also have your hand up. Thank you.
Yeah, I guess I really would like to suggest that we do consider a differential fee for non-residents for lodges. Using the philosophy that Dan talked about with boat slips, lodges are high demand, they go quickly, and I guess, Dan, from a data standpoint, is there any way to get a sense of the resident versus non-resident rental percentages. I'm curious about that, but I think the philosophy of utilizing a higher price point for non-resident boat slips, I think applies to the lodges as well, because we have limited capacity and high demand.
Sean?
And I was going to sort of say something similar. I mean, I see two reasons to move ahead with charging non-resident fees for lodges and things like that, because it creates consistency, and even if it is the case that somebody's going to, somebody in the group lives in the city limits, have them go get it, at least it's creating awareness. Being conscious of the fact that city residents are supporting these things with their tax dollars, and if you have a group coming from out of town that's, just going to find somebody who's going to do the reservation anyway, well, at least they're aware that they're sort of skirting the system a little bit.
Is there a dollar amount that you would be suggesting with that, Sean?
No, I mean, I guess I don't, I would trust the director to
Sure.
set that. But I think just to remain consistent with the differences between other programs.
Bob, yes.
I was just wondering if we have a comparison with other communities in Wisconsin, how they handle this. Do they traditionally or usually have a differential between the city and the adjacent area?
Non-resident fees are incredibly common. Most places have them. And one other thing that does play a role is, as you all recall, probably Park Ridge pays a fee to the parks. They have a fee that they give us on a per capita basis. It helps justify some of that. So for example, in our case, if we're being specific, our other neighbors do not provide anything to the park system. If we were to, a lot of cities will say, okay, there's the non-resident fees. However, if your township does pledge money, then we'll waive them. It gives a little bit more justification to, I'll call it a bargaining chip or a reason for them.
Well, I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, Park Ridge discontinued that. Did they pick it up again?
So what I'm told is that they had put it back in the budget, and I believe their budget's just passed, that there is going to be something back in it. I've not pulled the number specifically, but it was put back in, I'm told. So it was taken out for 2021, but 2022 they were going to look to make a pledge again.
I would hope so, because that Park Ridge borders on Iverson Park, and people that live in Park Ridge really look at that as their park. So I would hope that they would, have the generosity of spirit to go ahead and provide some assistance to the city of Stevens Point in taking care of the park. So good. Okay. Do we have any further discussion on this?
But I just wonder, how many non-residents really reserve the facilities?
So we do have a fair amount, and I apologize, I didn't try to run a report on it, but I believe we can, since our system was implemented. There is a fair amount because we have so many residential neighborhoods outside the city. So I'd be guessing at a percentage, but I could try to get it if that's something that the board would like.
I mean, I don't know, to me, it just does not seem worth it, because these individual programs, okay, if you live in Plover, Town of Hull, you're using the skating rink or using the pool. You rent a facility, who knows, 3/4 of people may live in Stevens Point anyway. So it just, I just don't see the point in that. Everything else I totally agree with, but for lodge rentals, it doesn't really impress me as making a lot of sense.
I guess, Mike, if I can respond to that, I guess my concern is that that residents are losing out to non-residents, and there's because a resident gets there sooner. And I don't know that that's fair to our residents who are paying taxes to support the parks. And if and Dan, I think it'd be interesting to as we continue this conversation, to get a sense of what that percentage is. If it's 5%, maybe not. If it's 25 or 30%, and I'm a parent of a kid that's graduating from college, and I lose out to someone that lives in Stockton or Hull or Plover because they beat me to it, then I'm going to be a little concerned about that. So I don't think it's unfair, with the exception of Park Ridge, because they are putting skin in the game, to consider some sort of non-resident fee, because there's no penalty for non-residents to come and use facilities that taxpayers in the city are paying for. So I guess, Mike, I disagree with you on that. I think we ought to consider this.
That's a good point, Wayne. I really didn't think of that. So
yeah, because it's limited capacity. And again, using Dan's analogy before, the boat slips, we have a limited number. We set a price point for non-residents higher because we have limited capacity. And I think you could use the same argument for the park facilities as well. We have a limited number of shelters for events for families and residents.
It's why
And
we
someone
have
can
the
get on
key, it's why we have the parking kiosks on the high-demand streets.
Well, and we're really getting to the point where people are already making reservations for 2022. And if we're going to have a fee adjustment, we probably need to look at doing that pretty rapidly so we can get that in place. And I mean, I would pose to you, would it make more sense to do like a 10% add-on or a $50 add-on, a dollar amount or a percentage amount? What would, Dan, would make the most sense?
My thought process is based on, I think a set dollar amount right now is a great way to start, because we do review the fee annually. So for example, if we start doing the tracking of the non-resident fee really closely, and let's just say we're gonna start really nominal, it was $10 or $20, it would allow us to come back next year and say we had X amount of rentals that paid that extra $20. And at that point, the board could review it annually and say, wow, that's way higher than we want it, percentage-wise, we're gonna increase it, or that's right where we want it and leave it alone too. I think $25 is pretty common for rentals that are, say, $250. You know, $10 is not a big percentage, so it's not unusual to see other cities do, say, $25 or a percentage of it. My preference is it's easier to explain on the phone as a $25 than saying, oh, it's 8% or 10%, because sometimes people rent multiple days and things too. So my recommendation would be we start with just a set dollar amount, and then we always could review it. Again, we'll review it annually, so it could be increased or moved around too.
Any other comments or questions for?
This is Alders. Go ahead, Alder Slawinski.
Alder Slawinski, right.
Sorry about that. No, I just want to echo Commissioner Sorensen. I absolutely agree with this. This has been something that I've been supporting for a while, you know, trying to get the people that are non-resident, non-taxpayers of our city to, you know, just pay a little bit more. I mean, our residents pay a fair share of taxes, and, you know, they should be able to, they shouldn't have to burden the, you know, be burdened by the non-resident users of our facility. So I completely support this. So that's it, thanks.
Thank you, Alder.
I guess I just had a question on the small fees, like the $3 to $4 and $4 to $5 at the rink. It's a kind of a small amount of money, and I'm not sure how that staff would be kind of checking that. It may be a lot of a hassle for them to have to ask. You know, it's a $1 difference to have to checking and verify by IDs, or with a lot of times you have kids and stuff like that. That go there without their parents, and they're like, oh, I'm a resident. What does that mean? You know what I mean? Yeah. So I just, what's the plan for checking that?
Great question. So that came up today too. So even for example, right now, when we talk about ages, where we say 300 is free, someone comes in and says, yeah, child's 3, we don't say, well, show ID. So we would do, no, I just bring that up because it's kind of similar. Yeah. How we would handle this basically is our staff, when we do our training onboarding, would be, when someone comes in and pays a daily fee, we would simply ask, are you a resident or non-resident? And if they say resident, we would just collect it that way, rather than, you know, tracking somebody down or asking for ID. However, if they want to buy a pass, or they give us their address, or we know, you know, for example, I'm in our system, we have the address, it actually tags the account as resident or non-resident. So in any case where we know the individual, or they're paying with a transaction where they're coming across our actual system, they can't really cheat it unless they say they moved or gave us a fake address. And we're not going to get them all. Obviously, we'll have times where maybe a child's not sure. But it is a good hold. Most people are you know, usually the first reaction is honesty. So they typically will say, no, I'm a non-resident, and then they'll go there. We definitely will get some that will say resident. That'll definitely happen. But it also makes people know that we're asking, we're looking, we're kind of thinking about it. And I think that's the part that helps a lot for it's really how our staff handles it, by asking the question.
Thanks.
I worked in with voting for quite a number of years, and a lot of people think they're residents and are not. So asking an address is probably a really good approach on that, Dan. Okay. Are we ready for a motion? I should look out here. Anybody are ready to make a motion regarding this issue?
I would make a motion that we would, I don't remember all the details of what you said, Dan, that's the problem. Follow the department's recommendations on program fees for non-residents, including setting a $20 amount, and I'm open for friendly amendments on that, for lodge rentals reviewed annually by the
Pardon me,
board.
did you say a dollar, did you give a dollar amount on the lodge rental?
$20 extra for lodge rentals.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion? I have a question because Sean, you had mentioned $20. Dan had mentioned $25.
Oh, I just sort of, I heard 10, 20, and 25, so I picked the middle one. That's the only reason for it.
Gee, as chair, I don't know if I can offer an amendment. Do you know, anybody know if I can do that? Alder Slawinski, you're pretty good on Robert's Rules of Order.
So the motion is to, was to increase to 20 and you want to change it to 25. Was there a second?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah,
it was.
then you would just move for an amendment to make it, if that's what you want to go with 25, and then, you'll have to vote on that separately.
I think if it's a friendly amendment, if the person who made the motion agrees and the person who seconded agrees, I don't even think we have to vote.
And you're not,
Oh, yeah, if that's how, if you want to do it as a friend, request a friendly amendment to the motioner, then he can just change it.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, Alder.
Yep.
Okay, anybody have any other questions or comments? Okay, we've got.
I have one question. So this applies basically to the 5 lodges? Just the 5 lodges?
Based on the motion, the motion by Shabilsky was to follow staff recommendation on the programs and entry non-resident fees with a $20 or $25 non-resident fee for lodge rentals.
Okay, it doesn't include any of the, like, band shell lawn rentals or that?
Based on how this is written to the letter, it would be no. So if the intent was to encompass them all, I think that would be something that would be worth amending.
If anyone wants to offer an amendment, that would be fine.
I think we're all struggling with wording.
Mike, are you looking
Right,
at?
that's
Well,
what
I was just looking like at the
band.
band, the band shell, basically would probably be the only one.
Well, it'd be fair to say, I guess, facility rentals cutting corporates, for example, if you came in and rented a meeting room for, say, 3-4 hours, if the non-resident fee just applied to facility rentals, then we could apply it as an add-on fee to all of them. If you're a non-resident, that probably makes the most sense from a.
Can we amend the wording to read facility and lodge rentals?
I believe you could, yep.
So you're gonna throw $25 on a meeting room then?
If that's how it would be set, it would be, yep. So if you ended up with, say, a 3-hour meeting room or a 2-hour meeting room, you'd have basically 1 hour added on based on the cost we have. That's how it will be set if it's a flat dollar amount.
Okay, Alder Zarazua.
I guess my only concern is that the question is more about like what other municipalities charge for this non-resident fee and wanting to know that we're kind of in line with that instead of just picking numbers as we go along. I guess that's the only thing. And I understand wanting to get this set sooner rather than later, but I don't know if there's a different way to get some of those numbers in place first before doing that.
I'm happy to call around and survey the numbers from the local municipality if you'd like to do that. I have no issue doing that before if you wanted to. Ultimately, that's up to the board, so.
Well, we do have.
I have another question.
Yes, Alder.
So, I guess, Dan, how are you basing your boat slips and stuff, the non-resident versus resident? What is that? Is that just a number? Is there a percentage? Is there any way we could just follow that kind of template?
That was established actually prior to me being here, so I think it's been $100 for several years.
So it's not, okay, so there's not like an established percentage, or I would much rather myself see a percentage, and then it was brought up that, we're gonna pay, charge an extra $25 for a meeting room. I mean, versus, just a percentage of whatever, I'd rather see the percentage, but just my thoughts. Thanks.
I'm wondering if we should proceed on the motion that we have on the floor right now and maybe exclude the meeting room and other facilities for the present time, because I think the intent of what we were trying to do was move something along with just like the individual going to the skate, or going ice skating, or going to the pool, or renting a lodge, and then maybe look at some of these other issues, because we could be talking about this for several months if we wait on it. So, hate to do this, Dan, but what is the motion that we have right now that's standing?
Sure. So, based on only one friendly amendment that I've heard so far, the motion by Shabilsky to follow the staff recommendation on the programs and individual entries, and then a $25 non-resident fee for lodge rentals. I did not incorporate any other friendly amendments at this point.
Okay. Can we move along on that and perhaps look at the meeting room and implications for other facilities at a later point?
Yeah, I think we have to. It'd be just too confusing if we're gonna start throwing other stuff on there. What about the gym rental, and other things that are smaller? These, it would be 5 lodges, right?
Yes, based on that, it'd be just the 5 lodges.
Okay. All right. Based on the motion as Dan had presented, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Okay. Opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you. Thank you for the work on that, Dan. Director's report.
Actually, there's one more in between there.
Oh, there is?
Yep, the update.
Oh, I'm sorry. Update, I saw the KB Willet there, sorry. Update on changes in full-time staffing personnel at the KB Willet Arena and Rec Center.
Yeah, so since I've been in the last meeting, I think it's been 3 months, but since late September, early October, we did have a vacancy created in the position, or in our department, with Kate Gullickson leaving the department for another opportunity. So following that vacancy being open, we did advertise and went through a hiring process. Park Commissioner Mike Ledesky was part of it for our second interview. And we were fortunate to have an internal candidate that we did offer it to, and Ann Hyla graciously accepted the position and began her duties on November 3rd. So Ann is now our programs and facilities supervisor. She has been with the department about 2 years, so she had quite a bit of background knowledge and information on how we operate. So she was able to hit the ground running and has been doing a terrific and tremendous job here for the first month. So I did want to put this on the agenda tonight to call attention to Ann's promotion internally and give the board an opportunity to welcome Ann to the management team, and give Ann, since she's here, a second or a chance to say hello or say a few words. So.
Congratulations, Ann.
All right, congratulations.
Thanks, everybody. Yeah, it's been an interesting transition going from one office to the other, but like Dan said, I feel pretty confident, hit the ground running, and there's lots to do, so I'm never bored.
With that transition then, I did open up an administrative assistant position within our department. So we have advertised that, and we are going to begin our interview process next week. And our intention is to hopefully get somebody on board for the first of the year. So we've got some new faces and new positions, but really confident that we're moving to the next level. And I think our programs, facilities, and recreational opportunities will continue to grow for the department. So we're excited to have Ann in that role, and whomever ends up in the administrative assistant position towards the end of the year.
Great. Okay, actually number 6, director's report.
Okay, so on the director's report, the first thing I wanted to mention or just bring up was that now that the budgets are approved, our projects for next year are known. So the comprehensive outdoor recreation plan made the capital budget, so we'll be moving into that. We're going to be doing the design for Gurkey Park with the goal of actually constructing the park then in 2023. The tennis court to pickleball court conversion in Mead Park is in the budget, so that will be moving forward. And our hope is to do that project in the spring. So hopefully the pickleballers in the community will have a place to go already by early summer. There's a new playground in Iverson Park that made the docket. So you'll see by the park, I'll call it really the north parking lot or northwest parking lot. North parking lot will be the one that playground's the one that's going to be reconstructed. So you'll see that project happen in the summer. The big pool in Gurkey Park will be getting replastered. We're going to be putting a new dehumidifier wheel in the KB Willet Arena, and then we're tuck pointing the main bridge that you cross when you're walking the roadway in Iverson Park to the beach house. There's actually some footings that are starting to fall apart. So 7 new projects in addition to a couple that we're rolling over, so it'll definitely be a busy year next year. The comprehensive outdoor rec plan, the Park Commission will definitely be involved with as we look into community feedback and updating that 5-year plan, as well as picking out, obviously, bids, some of the details of the other projects too. The Iverson restroom project update, that project is not done and will not be done in 2021. Basically, the supply chain has really hit that project hard. Windows that were due weeks ago are still not here. They believe they'll be here soon. When the windows go in, it'll allow the mason to finish some of the lintel plates and things that go around that window to windows to close it in. The doors are here now, and they're going to be putting those up soon so we can secure the building, but it delayed the painting and the epoxy flooring, all the things that had to be warm to do. So those will be happening in most likely April and into early May. Our goal is still to have it open for that first weekend of May if we can. Baseball and things will be down there even before that, but that project will finish first in the spring. So we're just kind of trying to secure it for the winter as best we can. The Willet roof project that the board denied the over budget price, I think in September or October. What we've discovered on that is that we need to do a moisture scan. So we've got a insulated roof or a foam roof that's on top of the foam material on top of a flat roof up there. And our intention is to cover that. We believe we still can. But given that we're going through another season, before we cover up anything that might be taking on moisture, the roofing consultant we're working with slightly is saying it's worth this extra step of a moisture scan so they can see if any moisture is in it, so we don't cover something up that would mold or rot or have decay. So that'll happen in the spring, and then we hope to move forward with actually bidding that out and doing the roofing project next summer. Moving to the next project, the Plover River Crossing, this has really come together quickly in terms of the grant application for the DOT TAP grant. Right now, that draft grant application, with lots of help from former Alder Jennings as well as Steve Menzel, who's a member of the Plover River Crossing Trail Group, several departments of the city staff. It's actually completed and in draft format and being reviewed by the staff for the DNR, or DOT, I should say, grant program. So there'll be some feedback that comes back from that. Once it comes back, there'll be a resolution that the council will be reviewing in December, going over the funding of it. And that grant application is scheduled to go in January. Once that goes off, then we should find out sometime in 2022, mid to late year, whether we're awarded. And right now, tentatively, the grant looks like we'll be asking for somewhere in the vicinity upwards of $1 million. So more details on that once the grant is finalized. But if that continues on the pace it's on, then that project could come to fruition in the next couple of years is the hope. I included donor interest for 2 neighborhood parks on the agenda. I've got a couple families, one bordering Atwell Park and one bordering Yolga Park, who have expressed interest in maybe purchasing some playground equipment. At Yolga, it would be a swing set the family's interested in. At Atwell, it would be a toddler set is what the family's expressed interest in to be adjacent to playground. At this point, I'm just letting the board know that there's some conversations going on. Once, let's just say checks would be ready to be written, or we'd have an idea of what it might look like, I'll be bringing that back to the board, I hope maybe as early as January, so that you can approve of the locations and what's being proposed. One other item I just wanted to mention is the Gurkey football field project. That project, if you recall, or some of you might recall, is the second rendition. The turf went in 2007. This is kind of the update. The fundraising team and the project team is looking at several upgrades, maybe in addition to the field. One that was talked about many years ago and has been reviewed or talked about is an above-ground locker room facility for the home teams. If that were to happen, it would be adjacent to KB Willet Arena, and it would have to be architecturally designed. During the fundraising, there's been conversations about if a rendering was produced, it would allow some conversations or potential sale or fundraising for it. So the group is looking to move forward, and we'll be moving forward with just bringing an architect on board to produce some renderings to allow the fundraising team to continue down that road. What it allow is to make sure if anything is presented, it would meet building code, it would meet with everything that need to be done, as well as produce some costs and things to see if it's a reality. The upside would be a big donation that would maybe bring that to fruition. If there was a downside, if there is such a thing, it would be a concept plan. If it wasn't funded in terms of building, it still would be funded in terms of fundraising the actual cost of the design or concept. But we can't really, or the committee and group can't really do anything unless we go through this step. So it is $23,000 is what it looks like that'll be. But in the project as a whole, which is going to be well in excess of $500,000, if you push up upwards of $1 million, at this point we feel it's a necessary cost. So again, it's not a city cost or expense. It would be part of the fundraising effort. But I wanted the board to know that these are part of things that are being reviewed for Gurkey Park. because that plan will come to this committee once it's more finalized, because the intent is still to do turf in June. So it's coming faster than, going to be here quicker than we know it. So with that, that's my long director's report for the night.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions for Dan? I have one. And maybe this is something that Ann might be in a position to answer. I'm not sure, Dan, but I was just wondering, with the hockey season upon us, how the COVID protocols are working out at the Willet, and if there's been the compliance that we really want to have there.
Sure, so fair question. So ultimately, after the city redid some of the protocols in relation to vaccination status and now, we started implementing some of those processes. So for university games, for example, the university is still requiring and posting that masks are required for their games. So we're allowing the user renters at this point to kind of help dissemble or provide what they want their groups to use. That's not being applied when they're actively eating or drinking. So we've not run into, we've had some fairly decent crowds in there, and it's a mixture is what I would say. And I think as the games go on, when people are eating concessions and things, we're seeing masks come off. And other user groups during programs like, say, Crystallized Figure Skating Club, things of that nature, there's quite a few participants and stuff wearing masks too. So our protocols are not obviously as strict as they were when we first got into this. We more are mirroring the city policy in relation to the vaccination status is how we've posted it. We do have both entry points open. However, for all game activities where there's large crowds, the entry is regulated to the west end, so we don't have them coming in both sides. So knock on wood, we've had good success so far and pretty good compliance.
Is the enforcement then up to the user group?
Correct.
Is that, the city has not been involved in enforcement?
Correct. We have not required nor asked or followed up with others in terms of masking. So.
And as far as like the university goes, because and the high school would be the ones that have probably the biggest crowds at the games, but do they have to show proof of vaccine status or anything?
I do not believe so, no.
Okay. Well, I think that's important to know, so, okay. Thank you. Anybody have any other questions? All right, thank you very much, Dan.
You bet.
Item number 7, adjournment. Motion to adjourn, please.
I'll move.
So moved.
All right. Mike, second from Bob?
Doesn't matter.
Okay. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you very much, and happy holidays for everybody. Merry Christmas, and we'll see you in January, I think.
Yep, absolutely.
A video of this meeting is available for viewing on the city's website, stevenspoint.com/videos.